Renault. It's been quite a confusing week, and I think it's time to make sort of a documentary on it and what's going on with Renault. So here's the table of contents, and here comes the documentary. So let's start out at the beginning, when Cyril announced last Monday that he was leaving Renault Alpine Group. And originally he was slated to lead Alpine as the whole, take over the entire group, and just be the main man in charge. And this was quite surprising for, I think, everybody when he said, no, I'm leaving Renault as a brand. So he didn't even take a chance, he didn't go up, he didn't move up a level. He just said, nope, I'm out. And it's weird, because he's been working at Renault for the last 10, 15 years. So for that sort of an abrupt change to happen, you used to be wondering to yourself, what's going on? At this point, there were a couple of theories about why Irritable had left the Alpine Renault stable. The first one was that he was going to another F1 team, maybe, a team that was struggling. And people were theorizing that maybe he could be going to Williams because although they had a new director coming in and Simon Roberts was staying on as deputy team principal, sort of like Claire Williams did, nothing was confirmed yet. So that was a theory, but it looks like at the moment, as of recording of this video, January 18th, nothing has been said about him going to another F1 team. So it looks like our friend Irritable, quotation marks, let's be honest here, is not staying in F1. So, what does that leave for him to do? Well, he could, go to sports car project if he likes racing, or just retire. I think he's made a good chunk of money for himself. Can't imagine that he would have spent much of it as a Renault team boss. I mean, you're going everywhere doing that sort of stuff for F1, running the team. How do you have time to spend any money? That was a joke. Take it easy. But now it's time to come to last Friday. As of Friday, we were still confused because Renault had said nothing about Irritable. They hadn't mentioned him. And normally when some heads come off at Renault, something gets mentioned about the heads flying off. Yet nobody was talking about the massive head of Cyril getting guillotined and why he had left Renault. So, when it came time for the Renault-lution on Friday, we were expecting something big. And as the cringy music started, and the Renault-lution began, and Luca Di Maio continued to bluster on through it, talking about their electric cars, their initiatives, all sorts of things that Renault was doing. And as we went further and further and further into it, we were still listening for the F1 bit. So when it finally came up, Alpine, we were a bit confused when they didn't say anything about our old friend Cyril Irritable, weren't we? Now, the real reason for the confusion was the fact that Irritable on Monday had announced that he was leaving the company. And yet still nothing from Renault, not even the leader of the Alpine group was willing to say anything about Mr. Irritable. The other more confusing thing was that nobody even said anything about Cyril's replacement. Nobody said, oh yes, and Davide Brivio, the one that was rumored to be taking Cyril's seat at the team, is taking Cyril's seat at the team. Nobody said any of that. It was very confusing. And for those wondering, for those interested in Renault stock, they plummeted after that. So, after that announcement, by the 15th, the stock had plummeted. And I'm not saying that that was the reason why, but it lost $1 in value in less than a day. That is insane. And if you know stocks, you know what that means. Considering that Renault stock was hanging at about $8.98, it went to $7.98. Now, I'm not saying, as I said previously, that this was all about the F1 team. But for a stock with a share value of that, losing that much is serious. And that's just really confusing, so that's why I bring that up. Back to the Renault-lution. So, normally in this sort of announcement, you talk about, your initiatives for future, your electric things, how you're going to become more sustainable in the future, essentially things to keep the global population happy so that you're not killing the earth, killing the polar bears, that sort of thing. Renault did that, and normally in this sort of thing as well, if you have a motorsports team, we'll use Porsche as an example, they have a team in not in F1, but they have one in Formula E, and in some sports car championships. So in an announcement of theirs, they could say, and we're increasing our involvement in Le Mans type racing and in Formula E, which they've done before. Yet, Renault's quite brief talk about the Alpine brand didn't even zoom in on the change of leadership. That's what made this so confusing. And it looked as though Renault had been caught off guard by the announcement from Irritable. Sunday happened, and the world was thrown into disarray, and the stock prices dropped even lower. So, what happened on Sunday? Well, Renault announced that the Alpine F1 team would get a new manager. It would be Davide Brivio, somebody who used to run the somewhat successful Suzuki Moto Grand Prix team, MotoGP for short. Now, he had taken them and other MotoGP teams to championship-winning success, and this looked like the thing that Renault needed to kick them up the back and tell them to get moving, and Irritable hadn't done that before, so this looked great for Renault, except for the fact that Davide Brivio had announced that he was leaving Suzuki quite a while before the Renault announcement. It looked like Renault was scrambling to find a replacement for Irritable, not planning this. So, this was all very confusing at the time, and still is. There's not much clarification about what's happened and why Brivio was announced so late and not in the Renaulution. The fact is, when stockholders, shareholders see Renault, they want to watch the Renaulution and find out what's happening. So when they don't hear anything about Alpine's F1 team and then go back and find out a couple days later that there's a new team principal, team manager, I think that's not really going to make anybody happy, especially people who have shares in Renault. So, going back to Brivio, it's sort of the same situation that Williams has right now. For those who know, Williams has getting a new manager, not managing director / team principal person, that's Simon Roberts, but they're getting Jost Capito, who was running the very successful Volkswagen Rally team before they had to get taken out of Rally. So, it's quite interesting that they're each of these two big teams, Williams and Renault, are both bringing in new people that haven't been in F1 before to run the operations. In Renault's case, it's not just the person running the F1 team, they're also running Alpine as a brand, and that's a huge commitment for Mr. Davide Brivio. And although it's not going to be, hopefully not too big for him, we'll see, because, it's a new thing for him. He's never run an F1 team before. So, what is happening at Renault? First of all, I think that Irritable's leaving, or abrupt leaving of the team, was not known to Renault until very soon before the Renaulution. Hence why they didn't change the speech for the Renaulution. I don't think they actually tried to hide it from the shareholders. I don't think that was really what they were trying to do with the Renaulution. I think it was just sort of an accident, really. That sort of excuses the late call of Davide Brivio up to leader of Renault. And it's more okay now that he's, been called in late, really. So that's better that way, really. Rather than Renault trying to hide it from the shareholders and things like that. I think, whether I think that it's a step up or a step down from Irritable to, Brivio, it's interesting. Personally, I think Brivio is going to be better than Irritable, because Irritable is known as a very toxic person and somebody who doesn't work well with others within the team, and that is problematic at times. So I think if Brivio is less toxic and less problematic for a team like Alpine, who really, really, really need some stability right now before they go into their big transformation before 2021, then I think he'll do great there. But I still think it would have been better if Renault had been able to get Jost Capito for their Alpine brand's F1 transformation, because, and here's my reasoning here, if they were able to get Capito, they would be able to have some experience on 4 wheels, not just 2 wheels. And I know Brivio is probably very good at what he does. You can say that all you want. But here's the thing. He doesn't have much experience running a team on 4 wheels. And although you're just saying, it's 2 more wheels, there is a difference between MotoGP and F1. And you can also say no duh, but there is a really, really big difference. And that is the way you have to run the teams. So I think it would have been better for Renault if they were able to get Capito. But knowing Williams, they would be in no mood to give them Capito. And also, this could be the right thing for Williams, getting Capito. I hope that he fixes Williams, and I hope that Williams doesn't suffer any longer under bad leadership. And I'm not saying Claire Williams is bad leadership, I'm just simply saying that the last few years have not been great for Williams. So what does this all mean for Eyebrow Man, Fernando Alonso? Well, it's quite interesting. He's coming from the Toyota racing team, which he's been racing for the last 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Within that, he has raced rally cars, only tested those actually, raced Le Mans cars, which you see in this footage, and raced Dakar rally cars. He is a man who is known to be a toxic driver, but even faster than he is toxic. And that is not an insult to Fernando Alonso, it is simply a fact. And his relationship with McLaren was interesting that way. So, it'll be quite interesting to see what happens at Alpine. If there's a bad leadership structure when he comes in there, he will not be happy and he'll stay for a year. Even though his contract is supposed to be for 2 to 3 years at the moment, Fernando Alonso's been known to be able to wiggle out of a contract or two. So I think it's more than possible for him to be, leaving that team if they don't really meet his expectations. And the odds of that are happening at the moment are somewhat high. I mean, let's look at it the way that the team wants us to look at it. It's sort of been a shock to them. They didn't expect Irritable to leave. Fernando Alonso was sort of banking on Irritable, not saying that that was the reason he wanted to stay at the team, but no matter, he expected Irritable to be there. Now he's lost some of that support that he expected to be there. It's more of an unknown now for him. So, within that, what does he do? If I were Fernando, I would stay at the team and try to get a podium. Although he's been traumatized by Red Bulls over the years, especially the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel, I really do think he could make a difference at that team and give it a flying start. People are saying that Pierre Gasly is going to replace him in 2022, but it's just totally false. You can see that he wants to stay in Formula 1 for a little bit. And all he has to do to, fulfill the prophecy is go back to Ferrari for a year. That was a joke, but I would still love it if he would go back to Ferrari and piss off Mattia Binotto. Respectfully, of course. But that's pretty much all he can do at the moment. In conclusion, Alpine Renault is looking somewhat set for their future, but they just need to figure a few more aspects out. And hopefully they can do that soon. If you did enjoy today's video, please do subscribe. It was pretty bad to edit, I have to say, with all this footage, managing it that way. It's quite annoying, I gotta say. But, hope you liked it, because, if you don't, I'm really gonna be angry. And if you don't like it, explain why you don't like it in the comments section below. Thank you, goodbye.